presumptive Republican nominee John McCain, presumptive Democratic nominee Barack Obama, and presumptive President Hillary Clinton all addressed the annual conference of the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or NOHAM.
AIPAC. The New York Times called them the most important organization affecting America's relationship with Israel. Why? What do they do?
Hello?
Hi, can I speak with Josh Block?
This is he.
Josh, how are you? My name is Mark Levine. I'm a professor of Middle Eastern history at UC Irvine.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Listen, I'm in D.C. shooting a show for the IFC called The Media Project, and I'd really love to speak to you or someone from AIPAC.
I appreciate the offer, and I hear the sincerity from you, bro, but it's not something that we're going to do. I wish I was in a position where I was going to help you, but I'm not. So.
Well, is there someone else with AIPAC who might do it?
No.
No? AIPAC is an organization that gets coverage on every major network. Why do they have a policy of not talking to the press? I went to see Morris Amate, a Washington lobbyist who actually headed AIPAC back in the 80s.
AIPAC, I know, does not work to try to influence the media. AIPAC basically works with the administration and the Congress on issues affecting Israel and the relationship between the two countries.
AIPAC has its annual convention, 8,000 people, all the networks are there covering it. I mean, everyone.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the media buys everything that AIPAC is advocating.
There seems to be this ubiquitous feeling that if you criticize Israel in anything but the most tepid way, you are going to run afoul of the quote-unquote pro-Israel, not Jewish, but pro-Israel lobby that will work very hard to either...
People who are friends, consider themselves friends of Israel, how they react different than how any other interest group in Washington reacts, in which you reward your friends and you try to defeat your enemies. Isn't that the American way?
That's the American way. With our free press, journalists should be able to say anything they want about Israel, but they don't. Is this the result of pressure from the lobby or something deeper? When Ken Silverstein was at the LA Times, he wrote a potentially controversial article about the conflict. It never got published, and he ended up leaving the paper.
Towards the end of the editing process, I had some very, very serious problems where I felt like the piece had been significantly altered in ways that I wasn't comfortable with. There was one key point that I really wanted to include that repeatedly was cut from the piece, and that was simply that one of the officials that I interviewed, who was with Hezbollah, we were talking about the question of Iran and the Holocaust came up, and he said, there's no question that this took place. I'm not denying that the Holocaust took place. My point, though, is that Europeans committed this crime and we paid for it with our land. And I thought, this is the Arab narrative. We don't hear the Arab narrative very often at all. But I think it created a little bit of discomfort because it looked like it might be too, quote, pro-Arab. And I think that just made certain people nervous. And so they decided to fix the piece. It got to the point where I just ultimately decided that I would be uncomfortable publishing it as it was edited in its final version, and I ended up just pulling the piece.
If Israel needs a week to wipe out Hezbollah, I say we give it to them. What's wrong with that?
It's unfortunate that Lebanese get killed in the crossfire, but at the end of the day, this is really much better for Lebanon.
There's almost no point of view that would be pro-Israel that would be deemed too extreme to appear in the American media.
Why blame Yasser Arafat? And if you do blame him, why not simply just go into his compound and kill him?
It's hard to get my own head around it. I've never been able to sort of figure out the sort of press, the way the press operates. And, figuring it out on Israel is even harder. I mean, you're always wondering, like, do people consciously tell lies or not?
Despite tens of billions of dollars in aid to Israel and millions of lives at stake, Americans are still in the dark about what's really going on. Why is it that the media has been so reluctant or unable or unwilling to get Americans to understand not only what the reality is there, but how we are implicated in it by our quote-unquote special relationship to Israel?
Is any news organization or reporter going to make it its cause to set the record straight on the Israeli occupation. So instead of one report, we have lots of reports. We have daily reports about here's the Palestinians who can't get water. Here's the Palestinians stuck at the checkpoint. Then next day we're going to have a report about Palestinians whose schools have been destroyed when they were searched for terrorists or whatever. If you do that, then you're not just telling the news. You're creating a narrative and espousing a cause. Maybe a worthwhile cause, but most American media don't see it as their cause.
Perhaps one of the reasons why we have these boundaries that you can't cross, these sacred cows about Israel, is because the sacred cows about Israel, what it does, actually in many ways are the sacred cows about who we are and what we've done and what we do.
There is a kind of understanding of America by Israel and of Israel by America that's almost unique. The fact that you've got two nations of immigrants, that you have a lot of different backgrounds, that there is, in a sense, original sin connected with the creation of the state, whether it's the extermination of the American Indians or the displacement of the Palestinians. All of that creates a kind of an affinity between the two that I think is much, much more complicated than the idea that a lobby, some insidious force called the Israeli lobby, just controls American opinion. It may know how to tap into that.
Direct it, shape it.
And direct it and shape it, but that's a different issue.
Israel was born out of the ashes of the Holocaust as a beacon of hope. But to really understand the country's troubled present, we need journalists to look beyond one-sided narratives and offer a more accurate picture of what's happened in the past and what's going on today.